Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome everybody to our June regular scheduled meeting of the Clay County Board of Education. We'll start with Mr. Caldwell doing the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
Attention. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Mr. Jones, if you wouldn't mind reading the mission statement, please.
The mission of Clay County Schools is to build high-quality learning environment that ensures all students learn at high levels.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. A couple of announcements. Just as a reminder, the middle school building subcommittee, we're in the process of reviewing 6 architect companies' submissions. We're going to select 3 of those to be invited to do a presentation to the board and to the subcommittee. Subcommittee members are myself, Mr. Caldwell, Dr. Peck, Scott Penland, and Mr. Cole. And that is tomorrow, Wednesday evening. The next regular board meeting is July the 25th. And then we have a special called meeting on the 29th at 5:30 to review and vote on year-end budget amendments for closing out the year. So at this time, I'll entertain the motion that we approve the agenda as it was presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Crawford. Mr. Caldwell, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And we have a public comment section. Mr. Paul Rose, I'll give you your 3 minutes again.
Don't start that. This falls under my statement that I made before, that even though we don't have kids in the school system, they're all our kids as a community. At this time, according to the North Carolina State Homeschool Status Report, there's 104 families who officially homeschool their children in Clay County. Those families represent a total of 170 students. According to the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, North Carolina does not have a law granting homeschooled students the right to participate in public school classes and activities. Thus, the individual schools and school districts have the authority to decide whether to allow homeschooler participation. Policies often vary from district to district. Students wishing to participate in public school classes or activities should contact their local school for information regarding their district's policy. I've recently heard that the current Clay County school policy is that homeschool students are not allowed to participate in school sports. I recognize the North Carolina High School Athletic Association has eligibility requirements that also have to be met. Children in lower grades have athletic options, but only because those grades fall under the county's recreation services. If my numbers are correct, of the 1,244 enrolled in this year's classes, 354 were in high school. Although I haven't found the current number of homeschool students at the high school level, if using that same ratio would mean that a potential 48 students could have the option to play high school sports. Of course, there may be a good reason for this policy, or perhaps it's just not been considered. I recognize and acknowledge considerations such as insurance, uniform and equipment costs, etc. may come into play. If additional fees are a consideration, then maybe that's something to be worked out. So far, I've not found a policy stated anywhere, so wanted to ask the question, seeking an official position and rationale behind the answer and a means to facilitate that participation and that policy be shared with homeschoolers. Hence, my submitted question to this board is not to state why we cannot open the sports up to homeschoolers, but to identify and make public what it would take to allow homeschooled students of Clay County to participate in high school sports and possibly other extracurricular activities. Thank you for your consideration, and I hereby submit this question to Superintendent Cole as Secretary of the Board in accordance with your school board handbook for your response. I didn't hear the bell.
What?
Did I go over?
No, you did good.
Yeah. Can I get clarification on the numbers you said that homeschool students? Do you remember the
What I
number?
looked at, the 1,244 came from your website as last year's total school enrollment in Clay County. And 354 were in high school.
No, I'm sorry, homeschool, or is it on?
It's on there, yeah,
104 families representing 170 students.
Okay, that's what it was,
So
one
using
hundred
the
four
same ratio
families.
of high school enrollments to total enrollments, they couldn't find the number of high school level kids. That means it comes out to a potential 48 kids.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Mr. Overland, the high school principal, doing spring sports recognitions.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. We had a successful spring sports season this year, and as always, we like to bring in the students who had special recognition as being all conference, honorable mention all conference, or who made it to the state competition level. So we have quite a few of those tonight. And let's start with ladies track. You all want to come on up here? Come on up here behind me. Don't be shy, come on. All right. I need to get one of these blue t-shirts too. That's a goal I have now. First, I want to recognize Emma Shook. And we'll come back to Emma later with the relay team, but first, individually this year, Emma was Smoky Mountain Conference champion in the 100-meter hurdles. She was also named all-conference. She was the 1A West Region champion in the 300-meter hurdles. She placed third in the state track meet in 300-meter hurdles, and she placed fourth at the state meet in the 100-meter hurdles. So congratulations to Emma Shook. Good, you're right next to Emma. Next is, it just worked out that way. Next we have Lily Trout. Lily, I was at the state track meet, and how many times did you PR during that shot put event? About 3 times or 4 times? Every time Lily threw, she got her personal best, which is exactly what you want to finish out at the very highest level when it counts. Lily placed third in the 1A state shot put for ladies state track. So Lily, congratulations. All right, next we have some relay teams. So I'll kind of move to this side so you can see them. First, in the 400, I'm going to tell you both events because it was the same lineup of runners for both the 4x400 relay, and they were placed 8th in the state, and the 4x800 meter relay placed 6th in the state. So first, I want to recognize Alyssa Rod. Next, Lila Roberts. Marley Espinal. And again, Emma Shook.
Before they leave the country, I just want to mention that every
One of these girls will be back with us next season. So that bodes well for the future.
Yes.
If you'll,
Congratulations. Congratulations. Good work. Good work. Good work. If you guys will center up right here, we'll take a picture.
I think, can you see me?
Towards me. Thank you, guys.
All right, next for ladies soccer, the ladies jacket soccer team had 2 all-conference players this year. One couldn't be here tonight, Cecilia Jones, who has graduated. And then we have Nimsi Lopez with us. Congratulations. Go up close if you want, Rance.
Good work.
Snap a picture real quick.
All right, let's have the men's track team come on in. Look at these guys. Coach, did you want to say anything? I kind of skipped over Coach Shelton, but I didn't know. You don't. Adam Urbanik is one of our coaches, and Adam has also served as the college advising corps member for the last 2 years. His term is over now, so he's moving on from us, but he's done a great job in the high school and in the coaching arena, so we're really proud of the work Adam did. Adam had several male athletes this year for recognition. First of all, in the 4x800 meter relay, honorable mention, Tommy Urbanik. Also, the 4x8 relay, honorable mention, Justin Bradley. Another leg of that relay team was Landon Hughes. Who was the fourth leg? No. And Brian Davenport couldn't be here tonight. But Taylor is here for a state qualifier in the shot put. So were you expecting to make it to state this year?
Tried to.
Yeah. Well, he did make it to state and did a great job. He qualified, and did you place? I don't recall. I think it was 8th, maybe. Yeah. So Taylor's a sophomore, so he still has 2 years with us, and we're looking forward to big things. Congratulations, Taylor.
Good work. Congrats, man. Congratulations. Good work. Congrats, bro. Good job, Tom. Good luck with everything. If I can help you out with anything, let me know. Yeah. I might say you. We might just show. We gotta take pictures. The guys are growing.
We can take a shot.
Yeah, there you go.
Something. Thanks, guys. And our last team recognition is from the baseball team. We had a solid season this year, 8-4 record, and again, as I look through, all 4 of these guys will be back again next year, so that's a good thing. And I've apologized to them. We don't have certificates for them, but we want to say their names. First of all, Kyle Lunsford. Braxton Cherry. Avery Leatherwood. And Cade Denton.
Mr. Overland, were these all conference?
Yes, I'm sorry, they were all named to the all-conference team for Smoky Mountain Conference. Quite an accomplishment.
Good work, man. Good work, man. Good work. Yeah. Y'all hang right here. Kneel down. We'll get a picture. Good job, guys. All right. Thank you, guys. Next, we'll move into the report section of the agenda, and we'll begin with Mr. Franklin Shook, Director of the Nantahala Regional Library.
Good evening, school board. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you all for your support for public libraries. My name is Franklin Shook. I am the director for Nantahala Regional Library. Nantahala Regional Library exists to provide the residents of Clay, Cherokee, and Graham counties with collections and services to aid in the pursuit of information, recreation, education, and creative development. All those words in short to say that when you come to our libraries, we want you to never leave empty-minded. We're very excited to be a part of bringing the community wonderful resources that are, of course, freely accessible to all residents. The first thing I wanted to talk about was we transitioned to a new library circulation system. It's called NC Cardinal. Through this system, you can gain access to items from over half of the state with your library card. As an example, you can place a hold on an item in Carteret County, which is on the East Coast, and they will ship it to your home library for pickup. Moving to this system, it augmented our access from around 200,000 items region-wide to about 7.7 million items statewide. So that just brings great access to the people here in Clay County. Because of this transition, we have new library cards, so I encourage everybody who hasn't already, come and get a new library card. We also have a special institution status for teachers and for homeschool parents. And what that does, it allows longer checkout periods and more items for the user. So if a teacher wants to come and check out a load of books for classes, we certainly allow that with special status if they just come and talk to us and let us know. So I encourage all of you to come get a new library card if you haven't yet. The cards have little keychain tags on them, just like your grocery store card. So makes it more convenient. Also wanted to remind you about our bookmobile service. Our bookmobile librarians are ready and willing to deliver classroom sets of books. They've been doing this to Clay County Elementary School for years. What they do is they'll come and they'll bring a load and then they switch them out about monthly usually. If this hasn't been set up at your school, I highly encourage you to call and help us get it set up for you all. We're also excited to share that we have a new ebook collection that we've purchased. It's called the E-Ink Digital Library. This is provided through the Libby app and Overdrive. It gives you access to over 40,000 ebooks, audiobooks, and e-magazines. And these are mainly geared toward adults, adults and out of high school as well. It's pretty easy to set up. You just download the Libby app, you search for the library, the E-Ink Digital Library, and you use your library card to authenticate. We also have something for kids. It's the NC Kids Digital Library, which is provided through the state. That's over 45,000 ebooks, audiobooks, and read-alongs and e-video on that service. And those are both accessible through the same app. So you can download the Libby app and access both of them as long as you're a card holder. So summer's here. Bridget Wilson, our children's librarian, is already underway hosting summer reading programs for each of our libraries. At Moss, we have them on Tuesday evenings or Tuesday mornings. And I have a flyer here for you all to share with you so that you can see most of this information. This year's theme is Oceans of Possibilities. So everything's very sea themed and all the kids are having lots of fun. The best way to see the schedule is to look on our Facebook page or to look on our website. And if you have any questions, of course, just come to the library and ask and they'll lead you in the right direction. Speaking of Bridget, she also is available to come read a book to your classroom. She does this for other systems as well. So if you have teachers who would like to schedule her to come and do story time, I know that it not only helps the kids to have another thing read to them, but it also gives the teachers a little bit of a reprieve for just a few minutes while another event is going on. Thanks to the sponsorship by the Friends of the Moss Memorial Library, we're also offering Wonder Pass. This is a pass that's check-outable for all library card holders, and it's good for the admission of 2 adults and up to 4 children to go to the WNC Nature Center in Asheville. This is a pretty good program that we have going on, and so I just wanted to make everyone aware, parents and kids and families, and really anybody can come and check it out. You need to come to the library and schedule it ahead of time, but other than that, and the typical rules, then it's free. So we have a lot to offer, but didn't have enough time to share everything. I know I gave you a lot of information, and I really appreciate you putting up the flyer on the screen. But I just want to encourage you all to come to the library and discover things, and never leave empty-minded. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to pass this out.
We'll push that out on the Facebook page.
Yes, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're up.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Okay, I believe next on the agenda is I was going to share with the public and the board just some quick overall results from the district level from our 2022 North Carolina Teacher Working Conditions Survey. Just as a reminder, North Carolina has been carrying out this Teacher Working Conditions Survey for 15 plus years. It is a biannual survey, so every 2 years it is carried out at the state level. It's a very intensive survey. I think it has close to 80 questions, and it covers, it's split into different categories such as teacher leadership, school leadership, resources and facilities, school safety, instruction, all the different areas that teachers think about when they're at their schools, or if they're choosing a place to work, or deciding whether they're going to stay where they're working. All of those things are statements that they are asked to agree to or not agree to a degree. I mean, that sounded weird. Essentially, I don't agree, I somewhat agree, I agree, I very much agree, is kind of the answers that you get. We use the results that we get by school and as a district in our school improvement planning and our strategic planning, because the number one thing we want to have is the absolute best working conditions that we can have, including safety, leadership, and every other category. Because as a small school district in a rural area, we're not able to pay local supplements like they can in large urban areas. And so without those extra funds, although the public may realize that our county commissioners did approve a 1.5% local supplement for our teachers for this upcoming school year, which we are very grateful for. I think that's the first time that Clay County has had a local supplement. So we're very much appreciative of that. And I think that was a great decision by the Board of Commissioners. But with that said, the number one thing that teachers and really all employees talk about these days is the work culture. Do I feel safe? Is it a great place to work? Is it a positive place to work? So just some highlights from this year's survey. First of all, you can find the complete results at nctwcs.org. nctwcs.org. That will bring up the results statewide. You can look at statewide data, or you can look at it by district, and you can do comparisons if you wish. The public has full access to the same information that we do. Second part of that is we had 100% participation in Clay County schools, which we're very proud of. Every one of our teachers and guidance counselors and certified staff participated. I wanted to point out that Clay County schools improved in 73 of the 79 areas of the survey since the last one that was given in 2020. So there's 79 statements on that teacher working conditions survey, and the percentage of agreement by our teachers went up this time in 73 of those areas. So I think that's a huge achievement for us as a leadership team, as a board, and really as a community, to make sure that our teachers have a great place to work. Clay County schools performed above the state average on 78 of the 79 statements in the survey. So again, that is a huge accomplishment. Because if you look at the previous bullet point, just because we didn't improve in an area didn't mean that we didn't still beat the state average. So just wanted to point that out. Next bullet, 86% of Clay County Schools teachers agreed with the statement, overall, my school is a good place to work and learn. So that's sort of the overall statement that we look at every time we have this survey. 86% of agreement on that. That ties us with Burke County at third in North Carolina, behind Hyde County, which was number 1 at 88%, and Perquimans County, which was number 2 at 87%. So that's overall teacher satisfaction. We were tied for third in the state. Another piece of data that aligns with that is that last bullet point. That's the fact that Clay County Schools was second in North Carolina last year for teacher retention. We only had a 4% turnover rate. The only school district in North Carolina that had a better turnover rate than that was Elkin City Schools. So you take those two data points together, and our teachers are very happy with the work environment that they have in Clay County Schools, and that's a lot to be proud of. This last slide is just areas for growth and improvement. A lot of the areas of improvement centered around time and how we are using time. A lot of the work that we're doing, such as professional learning communities, studying data together, we do during teacher planning periods. And that is work that quite honestly was not being done 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So there has been an impact on the amount of time that teachers had that is non-instructional, where they're not working in groups to improve their planning, to create lesson plans, to study data. Because 3 years ago, we didn't have these data sources. We've created them in the last 3 years, such as iReady, NC check-ins, and a lot of other areas that we use to measure student progress. But there has been an impact on that. That first line, 80.77% of teachers agreed with the statement that the non-instructional time provided for teachers in my school is sufficient. That was the percent agreement in 2018. In 2020, 79.4% of teachers agreed with that statement, and this spring, 61.6% agreed with that statement. So that has gone down, the agreement with that statement. The second line, the non-instructional time provided for teachers in my school is sufficient. This is a comparison between the state average of agreement and our average. So 57.4% of teachers across North Carolina agree with that statement. But again, 61.6% of ours, we still beat the state average of agreement on that statement. It's just we've gone down since 2018. Okay, so that is one area that we're going to focus on as a leadership team to see what we can do to improve that for our teachers. But just full disclosure, that was the area. Are there any questions about the teacher working conditions survey?
Mr. Cole, on the previous slide where it had the 86% and our comparison, with Hyde and Perquimans, are both of those, remind me, are those districts about our size?
They are. They're actually smaller than ours. Perquimans is closer to our size. Hyde County has about 550 students total. Yeah. That's Hyde County and Terrell County are side by side at the far east on the coast. And they go back and forth every year for being the smallest district in North Carolina.
Because I was just trying to, do a comparison there and stuff. And then, of course, Burke County's bigger.
Yes.
Much bigger.
Yes. But definitely Hyde and Perquimans are both in the northeast part of the state. Yeah. They're Region 1. Hyde is less than half the size that we are. Perquimans, best I can remember, is a little closer to our size.
I just thought that was interesting, especially with Burke County being too, in such a larger district. But
if anyone, like I said, wants to get into more detail on that, you can go to that website and you can get as much information as you want on the teacher working conditions survey for any county, any school district. You can just click through it. All right. Next on the agenda for me was, again, just a high-level view of our EOG and EOC data. I do want to say that at this point in time, this is just our coverage of the data. This is not yet certified by NCDPI, so it is still subject to change. They're still crunching numbers up there, and sometimes they'll move an expectation on a test, one number, and it could impact multiple kids. So this is accurate with the information we have at this time, but it is still subject to change because it has not been certified by DPI just yet. The first part I want to talk about is career readiness for our students. And when we talk about career readiness, we're talking about our career technical education program. I've shared some of this information before, but just in the interest of sharing all of this state level exam data, I felt like this would be the best way to cover it. So just as a reminder, Clay County Schools Career Technical Education Program was second in the Western region and 8th in North Carolina in overall program quality. They ranked 8th out of 116 districts in North Carolina in post-secondary job credentialing earned by our students. And that's by percentage. Obviously, we don't have as many students as everybody else does, but when you're looking at the percent of our students that earn a work credential, a nationally recognized work credential, we finished 8th out of 116 districts. 86% of the class of 2022 earned at least one nationally recognized job credential while in high school. So this senior class, 86% of them graduated with at least one work credential. And most of them graduated with more than one. And last, CTE more than doubled the number of students completing internships and other work-based learning opportunities this year. And we're on track to double that number again this upcoming year with there's just excitement building in the community and with our business owners about having our students complete internships. We're excited for them to learn the skills that they can only learn in a work environment. Everybody's looking for help, and I keep telling people we've got the best resource in Clay County, and those are our students. They're the best ambassadors for our county and our school district. And they would be a great addition wherever people are willing to take them in and give them a shot. So we're going to continue to build that program. Next, we'll talk about college readiness. And with this, we're talking about our Career and College Promise program, as well as our ACT scores. Remember, the ACT is a required exam for college readiness for every 11th grader in North Carolina. They all have to take it. So last year, 14% of the class of 2022 earned an associate's degree while they were in high school. So 14% of those students graduated with their diploma as well as a 2-year degree. 51% of the class of 2022 earned at least one college credit in high school. As far as I'm concerned, if you earn a college credit, you are obviously college ready because you can do it again if you choose to. The class earned 423 total college credits, which are transferable to UNC system universities. That equals about $340,515 in tuition at UNC universities. So that's not counting the scholarships that they earned. That's just classes that they took and passed while they were in high school. As far as ACT, as a reminder, for some reason, NCDPI moved the qualifying score for UNC universities from 17 to 19 during a pandemic. I don't quite know why they did that, but someone saw that as a logical thing to do. But with that, it's an extra level of rigor. Obviously, that had an impact on us. They actually did that in the middle of the year. So that had an impact on the percentage of our 11th graders that reached that college readiness marker. But even then, 41% of our class of 11th graders last year scored a 19 or better, which is a qualifying score for UNC system schools. 41% is pretty good for a class. And like I said, a lot of those kids have already earned college credits. So, I mean, if they earned a college credit, they've proven that they can do it, no matter what they scored on the ACT, in my opinion. Next is EVA student growth. Remember, when we're looking at test scores, there are two ways to measure it. One is proficiency. Are they grade level proficient or not? Remember that a teacher can't really help it if a student comes to them 2 grade levels behind. And it's very difficult to make up 2 years in 1 year because they didn't give us any more time. Sometimes it's doable, but it's very difficult. So sometimes you'll have a teacher that has several students that were multiple grade levels behind, and they grew them a grade level and a half. But that student still didn't score proficient, but they closed the gap, and that's what we want to do. Typically, if a student is more than 1 grade level behind, it will take up to 3 years to close that gap. And we want to make sure that we're exceeding growth so that we know we're closing that gap, and in another 2 years, that kid will be on grade level. That's the goal. Proficiency is when they're grade level right now. So there's a difference between proficiency and growth. Right now I'm talking about growth. EVOS is the tool that the state uses to measure that. It is a year behind. So I put in red here, this is 2020-21 growth data. We won't get 21-22 growth data until next spring. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But specific to growth, Clay County Schools has met or exceeded every North Carolina student growth goal for every subject and grade since 2019, except 1 year in 5th grade science. And that was 2 years ago. But we've met or exceeded the state goal for growth in every other area during that time. Clay County Schools was second out of 18 Western Region districts in overall K-8 reading growth during that year. Clay County Schools was 8th in the Western Region in overall 5 through 8 math growth. Clay County Schools was 6th in the Western Region in Math 3 growth. Clay County Schools was 6th in the Western Region in biology growth and exceeded the state goal in biology in 2020-21. And last, during that year, CCS was 5th in the Western Region in ACT composite score. So, specific to proficiency, so now we're not talking about growth anymore, we're talking about grade level proficiency for this year's students. These exams in K-8 were taken in May. High school, obviously, because they have block semesters, they do their EOCs twice a year, but this is all of their data combined for the year. So what I've done is just a simple comparison here between where we were in 18-19, which was prior to the pandemic. Okay, so the pandemic happened in the spring of 2020. Notice that I don't have a line for 19-20 because that was when schools shut down and we didn't have any state exams. So we have no data for that year. Then we pick up in 2021. Our students were here face-to-face as much as we could have them here face-to-face. We still had a lot of quarantining. We missed a lot of face-to-face time, but we had a lot more face-to-face time than most districts, and I think our data shows that. That took a lot of courage from our school board, but it had an impact on student learning. And then I've included on the last line 21-22, which is this past year. So this is just overall throw everything 3 through 8 together in reading. Our principals are going to do more specific school reporting on EOGs and EOCs in either July or August after DPI finalizes the numbers, and we'll know that they're accurate at that point. But just overall, throwing all 3 through 8 students in reading proficiency, this past year we were at 59% reading proficiency at grade level. So the 2 things I'll point out about that is our reading proficiency last year was better than it was prior to the pandemic by almost 9 percentage points. We also had a gap between, when you look at 2021 in grades 4 through 8, obviously our proficiency dropped, but we were able to close that gap through the hard work of our teachers, our school leaders, our communities for schools, tutors and volunteers, everyone chipping in and working together and working a lot of extra hours. But that's what it takes. It takes more time to make up time. So we're very proud of that. Next, we have math proficiency. Math was impacted more by the pandemic. It was very clear looking at our data all along. But in 18-19, our 3 through 8 math proficiency was 63%. In 2020-21, it was 44% after 2 years of pandemic. This past year, we brought it up to 59.4%, so we didn't quite get to where we were prior to the pandemic, but we got very close. And we feel like we'll move well beyond that 62.7% next year. That's what the trajectory is. So I've got that in yellow because it was a huge improvement over last year, but still we want to be further along than we were in 18-19. So that's the goal. District 5th and 8th science proficiency. Remember that there are only 2 EOGs for science, one in 5th grade and one in 8th grade. So we don't have EOGs in science in the other grade levels in 3 through 8. You'll see that science was impacted very little by the pandemic. It has stayed pretty much the same throughout. Whoops. English 2, now we're in high school, so these are our end of course exams. I'm very proud of English 2 and the work that Mr. Overland and his team have done. 18-19, they were 55% proficient. This past spring, they were almost 61% proficient. And again, we feel like that trajectory will continue. We're going to be training our English 2, or all of our high school English teachers in a new curriculum that the board has approved, that we have ordered, and we think that's going to be very helpful. It aligns to the North Carolina standards very closely. And our teachers at the high school haven't had that in the past. District biology, again, there was more of an impact in biology than there was in some of the other subject areas. In 18-19, we're very close to 70% proficient pre-pandemic. That dropped to 52% in 2021 after 2 years of pandemic. It improved to 57.5 this past spring, and we believe that it will continue to improve. But we've got some work to do there in biology, and that's the reason why it's yellow. Math 1 proficiency, again, is yellow. We've got work to do. Now, I will tell you this. Our average class size typically at the high school is right around 80 to 90 students. Would you say that's correct, Mr. Overland? Grade level? 3 years ago, we didn't have that many kids taking Math 1 in 8th grade. We didn't have a lot of kids taking advantage of that acceleration program. Now we have close to 30 8th graders taking Math 1 in middle school. Those are our top students. They take Math 1 in 8th grade so that they have an open block at some point in high school, towards the end of high school, to take another college level math class to better prepare them for college. As a result, the students taking Math 1 in 9th grade at the high school are typically not college-bound students. They are students that tend to struggle a little more with more abstract math concepts. So it's a little harder. The more kids that are taking Math 1 in 8th grade, that is going to have an impact many times on your Math 1 proficiency. However, of those students, we had 53% in 18-19 that were proficient. That dropped a tremendous amount during the pandemic. We said before that math took a big hit during the pandemic. But we had a huge rebound to 46% proficient this year. And that was also with a new Math 1 teacher. So we believe that that trajectory will continue, and we're going to improve upon that. But again, that's an area where we have to improve. Math 3 proficiency is a huge success story. Math 3 is the other high school math that the federal government uses to measure our progress as a district. In 18-19, 43% of our Math 3 students scored proficient. Last year, 70% of our math students scored proficient in Math 3. That is a fantastic achievement, but we still want to get better. Our goal is to get to 80% on every one of these. So it's still a work in progress, but we're very proud of our math department's work. So again, this data is not yet certified by DPI and is subject to change, but I can say we're definitely closing learning gaps created during the pandemic and improving our instruction, resulting in improved student learning outcomes, and we'll have more school level data reports in July or August, depending on when DPI certifies them and releases them. Any questions about that data?
Mr. Cole, on the CTE group, where can we find the information that states we were ranked eighth? I'd like to know, can we get on the computer to find out who the other counties were, or?
They actually don't provide that to the public like they do everything else, but I can get a report from DPI that they will release that I can share. But they don't, CTE doesn't have a website like separate to them, to their job credentials and test scores.
But I'd like to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Mr. Cole. Next, we have the action section of the agenda, and we'll start with the school nutrition program and Ms. Jenny Beth.
I have a few school nutrition updates and recommendations for the upcoming school year. We have been very fortunate over the past few years to be able to provide a breakfast and a lunch at no cost for all of our students. Unfortunately, those federal waivers are set to expire at the end of the summer, which forces us to charge for meals next school year. However, we will be able to have families fill out free and reduced applications through our online application process. The school nutrition program has been experiencing supply chain interruptions, which have driven up the cost of our foods dramatically. We've also experienced an increase in hourly wages, which is also set to go up again in August. Next slide, Adrian. Prior to the pandemic, in the 1920 school year, the lunch prices at elementary were $2.40 and middle and high were $2.50. Next slide. For the 22-23 school year, I would like to recommend a $1 increase across the board, which would put elementary at $3.40 and middle and high at $3.50. Elementary and primary, I'm sorry, at $3.40 and middle and high at $3.50. And really, to be honest, this increase will only cover the cost of putting the food on the plate. This doesn't include labor or anything else. And for now, this is what the other surrounding county school districts are recommending at this time as well. Next slide. As far as breakfast goes, prior to the pandemic, we have always participated in universal free breakfast, where local covers 50% of this cost and school nutrition covers the other half. I would like for us to continue universal free breakfast for our students next year, and I do believe I'm correct in saying that this was already included in the budget and it was actually never taken out of the budget. So at this time, I would like to recommend the $1 increase at lunch, as well as universal free breakfast for every student at breakfast for next school year. Do I continue?
Yes.
Okay. And my last recommendation is the school nutrition program is required to federally procure all goods and services. For next school year, we had to put out 2 new bids because of the food and supply increases. And so our 2 new vendors are U.S. Foods for our mainline foods, bakery, and supply items, and then Correction Enterprises for our chemicals and sanitation products. So at this time, I would like to recommend all of these.
Very good. So you've heard those recommendations from Ms. Bethel. So entertain a motion that we approve those increase in fees and those food supply vendors.
And that's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
Hang on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we go ahead and do that before we ask you a question.
No,
You
you
got
can
questions? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you can ask questions.
No, I ain't got a question.
I just have a question. Do you have an estimate on like approximately how many of our students are free or reduced?
Well, like Mr. Cole mentioned earlier, we don't have much good data for 1920 school year. Over the past few years, families have not been required to fill out the free and reduced applications. So I do have data right now, but it's not very accurate. We had over 700 students that did not even apply because, it was free for everyone. everyone. Prior to the pandemic, we were over 50% free and reduced. Right now, we are close to 40%. So, I mean, hopefully that will go up. I would say it will go up next school year.
Yeah.
But we'll get a more accurate,
This coming year.
yes.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes. What will the prices be for free, for reduced?
Well, used to the state provided funding for that, but with the new legislation that just passed, it will not. So 40 cents at lunch for reduced price students. And free at breakfast, of course, if they qualify.
One other question.
Uh-huh.
You will advertise this and let all the parents
Yes.
and guardians of the kids know this?
Yes, we usually do an all-call at the beginning of school year, as well as all the data and online application is on our website, so, yes.
We advertise on Facebook as well to ask people. That makes our favorite.
We try to do everything we can to encourage everyone to fill out the free and reduced lunch application, even if they don't think they're going to qualify, just because I guarantee you more than 50% of our students meet the federal guidelines for free and reduced lunch. It's just that our percentage of filling out the application tends to be low, so we always want to try to improve that.
Well, I just want to make sure that we make sure the parents do know, and nobody can come back and say, we didn't know this or anything.
Are you
Be
talking about
very
just
important.
the increase in
The
particular?
increase, yes,
Yeah.
if we do the increase,
Yeah.
and it's both of them.
Yes, we will definitely get that information out to parents.
Anything else? If not, then I'll entertain a motion that we approve these recommendations from Ms. Bethel.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ms. Crawford?
I'll second it.
Ms. Beck, second. All in favor? Thank you.
I want to thank Ms. Bethel too and her team for the work that they have done during the pandemic. They have moved mountains to feed kids over the last 3 years. And it has certainly had an impact on their lives, I'm sure. But they've done a wonderful job, and her leadership has been very much appreciated.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have the Clay County Schools AIG plan with Ms. Kim Worley.
I have a synopsis of our plan for the next 3 years for the academically and intellectually gifted program. The North Carolina DPI provides a framework for us to write our plan and for us to base our program on, that allows some flexibility so we can serve our local context. Our AIG plans are rewritten every 3 years, and it has to be approved by our local board before we submit it to DPI, and then DPI provides comments for us to consider, and then if we have to provide any kind of corrections, we can do so. During those 3 years, they get input from all the programs across the state, and they also analyze data, and then they kind of look at their standards and revise them as needed. And the new focus on the standards is on equity and excellence. So our new plan will focus on equity and excellence as well. And these are the standards of the AIG plan that we'll address today. And the purpose of our program is, of course, is to advocate for advanced learners, provide opportunities for them, to increase student access to opportunities, to support our staff in serving students with advanced needs, and to identify and serve gifted students. And I know I used advanced learners and gifted students both there, but advanced learners, that's the term for any student that's needing some differentiation for enrichment. It's not necessarily a student that's been identified as gifted, but our program serves advanced learners and students that have been identified as gifted as well. So the first standard focuses on student identification, and in that standard it gets very detailed on how we screen, identify, and how the referral process works for the gifted program. And in this plan, our plan doesn't change a whole lot. We did move the universal screener to the beginning of 4th grade. Third grade's very busy, as you know. They have a lot of kind of extra testing, and we thought the beginning of the 4th grade would be better, and we also have the achievement scores from 3rd grade ready as well. We also updated our alternative aptitude and achievement testing options, and that was just according to what our school psychologists will be using this upcoming year. And of course, one of our main goals is to make sure that our AIG student population reflects that of our total district population of students, and it does remain very close. However, we do have 2 continued focus groups from our last plan into this plan, and that is on our EL or our English learners and our 2E, twice exceptional. And a 2E student is a student that receives services through the Exceptional Children's Program and through the gifted program as well. So some ideas for strengthening this standard. We want to make sure that we remain cognizant of our makeup of our IIG program and make sure it is reflective of our overall student program. And for example, right now I'm keeping an eye on our boys versus girls in our gifted program because we have been identifying more boys in the past 2 years than our girls. We want to make sure that we continue to work with our MTSS or our multi-tiered system of support teams and our teachers on helping our top-tiered students grow. Those students who are in the top tier are highly proficient students, and those are the students that we have trouble showing that growth with. So I want to make sure I'm doing what I can to help that group of students. And we'll be updating our AIG paperwork to reflect some state recommendation changes and just some verbiage, adding parent/guardian, and they'll be shifting from English learner to multi-language learner. Standard 2 is the comprehensive programming within a total school community, and this is the one I'm most proud of. You know, when I came here 3-4 years ago, whenever it was, we were kind of recreating the AIG program from the ground up, and we just had AIG classes. But now we have AIG classes with our 4th graders, and we have talent development classes now with our kindergarten through 3rd graders, and we have advanced math club now with our 4th and 5th graders. So we have so much more now than what we had 3 years ago, and that's not because of me. That's because of the support of teachers and administrators and central office staff and just people working together to know that we need to advocate for this group of students. And like I said, this is the standard I'm most proud of because it's come so far in the past 3 years. So you can see how much we've grown over the 3 years and what we offer now compared to what we used to offer. In that standard, we also describe the master schedules at each of the 4 schools and what we're doing now in the 4 schools to help all students. We have dedicated times built in for intervention and enrichment at all of our schools. And you have to describe those times and how they're going to be used. It also describes how teachers serve advanced students within the regular class times and how we meet all the needs of our students academically, intellectually, socially, and emotionally. And how we're going to strengthen this standard, just by extending options for kids, just like we're extending high school classes in the middle school. And I'm hoping to, I've done this in the past, pre-COVID, but I'm hoping to do this again, is host a summer camp for AIG students again. So I will be seeking out some grant funds to do that again. Standard 3 is about differentiated curriculum and instruction. In this standard, we described how we use the North Carolina Standard Course of Study and the CCS District Strategic Plan as our foundation for all the AIG programs. Again, we talk about the importance of MTSS, flexible grouping, and differentiation, how we fostered the development of those future-ready skills of teamwork, collaboration, creative thinking, and we list the resources that we use to meet the needs of our advanced students. And the ideas for strengthening this standard, the Advanced Learning Department of NCDPI, they produced a call to action brief called Critical Actions to Realize Equity and Excellence in Gifted Education. And in that brief, they listed some actions that schools can do to increase access and opportunities for advanced students. And the very first one was called Reframe Your Lens. And that one's very personal to each school, but it's basically just taking a step back and looking at how you do things and how you could do things differently. And I was thinking about this and how we've been doing that here at Clay County, just taking a step back and saying, how can we do things differently? You know, if we keep doing what we've always been doing, we're going to get the same results. And we're not doing things like we used to. We're doing things differently and we're getting the results. And the state AIG motto is, for AIG, is AIG all day, every day. But I like to say students should be served all day, every day. And that's where differentiation comes into play. We should be anticipating that as part of our instruction so all students can be served. Standard 4 is all about personnel and PD. We describe how we use PD and how it's provided to staff on different AIG topics. It also describes the job duties of the AIG coordinator and lead teacher, the importance of how MTSS plays into AIG, and how we work with other departments to provide services to students. And how we can strengthen this standard is by coordinating our professional learning communities and PD sessions with the input of administrators and the instructional coaches. And also for me to become more involved with our individual MTSS data teams. The next standards of partnerships, and I know I'm flying through this, but this thing is huge, I'm sorry. The partnerships talks about the AIG representation on campus at events such as open houses, PTA meetings, and such. It also talks about partnerships that we've used in the past in the community and possible future ones. It also talks about our resources that we have obtained through various grants and how we share information throughout the community and within the schools. And it talks about our advisory board. And a way we can strengthen the standard is just to seek out more local partnerships for the benefit of the students, as well as seeking out more grant resources. And the last standard is program accountability. Our new plan reflects the updated standards of the state, as well as the call to action brief, as well as our local district and school plans. It describes how our program will be monitored using various types of student data, how we will monitor our underrepresented populations, how we plan for our feedback and evaluation and sharing of information, the articulation of due process rights, and the ideas for strengthening this standard. I'm looking forward to collecting data on our talent development program because that program is really growing. I'm curious to see what kind of data we'll get from it. And I'm going to be working more closely with our high school to see what kind of data I can collect on our AIG students there beyond that of just their EOC scores and ACT scores. So very quickly, just to kind of reflect on this past year, we served a total, or I served a total of, all of me, served a total of 95 AIG students, and you can kind of see the breakdown there from schools. I had 50 talent development students and 15 advanced math students. And you can see the number of screeners and assessments. And I'm also at the with the Beta Club at the high school. And for this upcoming year, we'll be back at the primary school doing some more intense talent development, and I'm really looking forward to that. At the elementary school, we have talent development, AIG, and advanced math going on. I'll be serving AIG at the middle school, and I'll be with Beta Club at the high school. We have universal screeners lined up at the beginning of the year at the elementary school, and I have a handful of kids to screen in 7th grade that I didn't get to this past year. So we got a busy year, but I'm more excited about this upcoming year than I've been about any other school year here so far. And I'm just very appreciative of everyone that's worked with me to get us to where we are today. It's been a real blessing this year. So I'm officially requesting the board's approval for this plan that I sent the whole plan to y'all last week so that I may submit it to the state for their review and for their comment.
Any questions or comments from Ms. Worthing?
I just think it was very thorough. I mean, there was 80 pages,
yeah.
wasn't it?
80-page document,
80-page
yeah.
document, and so it's very thorough, and we appreciate the work on that.
Yeah, again, we're blessed to have fantastic employees in Clay County Schools, and that's what makes a difference with teaching and learning. Ms. Worley works with every one of our AIG students, kindergarten through 12th grade, 95 of them, at all different grade levels and with all different kinds of strengths. I would point out that we really don't get any extra points on our school grades from the state for students that score level 5. It's all based on grade level proficient. So it would be the easiest thing in the world to take all of our resources and focus them on our students that are not yet grade level proficient and just kind of let our accelerated or AIG students just kind of fend for themselves. But our mission statement says all students learning at high levels, all students. And it is not fair to a kid who is an advanced kid for them not to be challenged. And so we do everything we can to be very detailed, specific about what kinds of opportunities we provide to differentiate instruction and accelerate our AIG students because they deserve it and their parents deserve it. And Ms. Worley is the focal point of that. She does a fantastic job. She taught 95 kids at 13 grade levels while writing an 80-page document this year. I could not do it without her. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Worthing. So, if there's no other comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the AIG plan as presented by Ms. Worthing.
I'll make a motion we approve the plan.
Second.
I second.
Mr. Caldwell, second. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Worthing.
And I'm going to ask all members of the board to sign this document for Ms. Worley real quick. If you don't mind.
You're up, yeah. You can read that? Okay. So next item is the recommendation to add June the 9th, 2023 as an optional teacher workday in the district calendar.
Yeah, this is for our next school year's calendar. We need to add another workday to our calendar. We had left that last Friday in the first week of June open anyway, which is June 9th. So so we can get that extra workday in for our teachers that is required. I'm asking the board to approve us adding an additional optional teacher workday on June 9th, 2023.
So you've heard that recommendation from Mr. Cole to add that teacher workday. Is there any questions, comments?
So you added another one. You had 2 this year, so you're adding another one?
Well,
so it'd be
we're
3 days mandatory.
Well, I'm recommending, we're required to have a certain number of days for salaries. And to be honest, we miscalculated and we were short one day. And so we've got to add a day. And that's the most logical place to add it is on that last, on June 9th, which is a Friday in June. And of course, teachers can take it off. It's an optional day if they want to use a leave day, but we have to add that day to the calendar. If we don't add it then, we're going to have to add it somewhere else.
They don't want to add it during Christmas.
No, we don't want to add it during Christmas break or Easter break.
So I'll entertain a motion that we add that optional teacher workday to the end of the calendar.
I'll make a motion we
Ms. Beck,
add that
motion.
day.
I'll second.
Ms. Crawford, second. All in favor? Thank you. And next we have the 2022-23 school insurance renewals. Ms. Hollingsworth.
Yes, I just have a few policies to go over. We go over these every year, and we'd like to get your approval on these. A couple of them we did go over last month, just because we had to get applications in to the North Carolina School Boards Trust, but I'm gonna go ahead and go over those again as well, and then we'll approve those all as one approval. The first one we have is the errors and omissions general liability trust fund coverage. The carrier for that is the North Carolina School Boards Trust. This includes errors and omissions coverage, the general liability coverage, our drone liability coverage, a small part of cyber liability coverage, and we'll go over some of that more in just a minute, a cyber first-party coverage, sexual acts abuse liability coverage, and medical expense coverage, and that covers school guests, students, and including some athletic injuries. The deductible for this is $5,000. The premium for the upcoming school year is $2,121, and that's an increase of $38 over last year. The next one we have is the auto liability physical damage. The carrier for this is the North Carolina School Boards Trust. The deductible for this is $500. Our premium for this did decrease, a total of $956, but we did have automobiles that we auctioned off that reduced that coverage. And then there were a few of the items we have covered that we were able to do just liability coverage instead of full comprehensive. Then we have, that was $6,268 for the upcoming year. Property insurance, the carriers, the North Carolina Department of Insurance. This is with the Office of State Fire Marshal. The deductible for this is $5,000. Our total coverage, including buildings and contents, is $65,287,071. The 22-23 premium is $22,525, and that is an increase of $4,204 over last year. And just a few things that go into the rates. It does take into consider inflation, the construction type of the buildings that we're insuring, fire protection in each facility, and as you know, we have aging facilities that probably have some aged and outdated fire protection in those facilities, so that comes into play. The occupancy, and then risk improvement recommendations. We do have an annual walkthrough every year, and they took a look at their previous year recommendations to see if we've improved on those, and also give us recommendations to work on in the future. And they also look at our lost claims history. This year, we're going to add new boilage cover. This is new. It's boilage coverage for our boilers. A $5,000 deductible for that. The premium for that is going to be $2,400. And the biggest reason why we would like to add the boiler coverage is we do have a lot of aging boilers on campus, and this will help us with those once those start going out on us. The next one's cyber liability. Our carrier will change to Coalition this year. Our previous carrier was Cowbell. The difference in the coverage for Cowbell and Coalition was that ransomware coverage with Cowbell was only going to be $100,000. Then the Coalition was going to be $1 million. So that was kind of a no-brainer. The actual premium is going down $1,953. So the 2022-23 coverage amount will be, the premium will be $12,806. Workers' compensation, the estimated covered payroll for the upcoming year is $2,744,650. This covers our local funded employees, our federally funded employees, any employees that we pay out of our special revenue fund, which we call Fund 8, and that would mainly be NC pre-K staff. And it also covers the school nutrition employees. There is an increase this year of $5,415 over last year for $19,981 in total premiums. This is mainly because we did have an increase in salaries. You know, we had a 2.5% last year. We got another 2.5% coming into this year, and then with a minimum of $12 per hour last year, and then a minimum of $15 per hour for staff into the next school year. So that does drive a lot of that premium increase. And then plus we have added positions in our federal programs from the ESSER funding, so that also helped to increase that premium. The one of them that I don't have listed here, and I'll make sure I list it for next year, is our student accident coverage. The premium for that is going to be $1,095.60 for the upcoming year. The athletic coverage is $4,395. And then we have catastrophic for the middle and high school, and that is $732.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Hollingsworth?
Would you repeat that last figure, please?
The accident insurance.
Yeah.
We had the student accident coverage for $1,095.60. Athletic coverage, which covers our athletes, $4,395. And then the catastrophic for the middle and high school athletes, which is $732.
If I'm not mistaken, Ms. Hollingsworth, we had to add that insurance for the student athletes because the North Carolina High School Athletic Association used to provide that in the past, but the General Assembly passed a law this past session that discontinued their ability to provide insurance coverage. So we have to get insurance coverage somewhere else.
For the catastrophic only. We already had the athletic coverage.
Correct.
So we had to add the catastrophic for middle and high school.
Any other questions or comments from Ms. Hollingsworth? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we approve those insurance policies for the 22-23 school year.
I'll make a motion, we approve the insurance renewal.
Mr. Jones, second.
I'll second.
Ms. Beck, second. All in favor? Thank you. And next we have the 21-22 fiscal year end budget.
I'm just going to have y'all vote on the state public school fund tonight. I've got many other budget amendments to work through. I'm sure there'll still be some more state, and then we'll have federal and local, child nutrition, capital outlay, and some special revenue funds to deal with on Wednesday. So this one is an addition of $820,805 to the state public school fund. A lot of these, you're going to notice they're guaranteed allotments, which mean, and like we've talked about in the past, is we get these actual pots of funding based on the number of teacher allotments that we have, the positions, or months of employment. So they go ahead and give us an allotment based on our average teacher salary, which once we finish paying the salaries, that's always different. So for our classroom teachers, we added an additional $293,174. For longevity, annual leave, bonus leave, and supplemental long-term disability payments, $150,829, and that is based on, we still have staff that qualify for longevity payments, even though teaching staff or anybody tied to the teacher salary schedule do not. There's other staff members that do. And then annual leave and bonus leave payouts for anybody that separates employment, so that's included there as well. We did not have anybody on short supplemental long-term disability this year, but those are normally paid through that allotment as well. Career and technology ed, months of employment, $39,311. We got $37 in school technology funds. That's the February through April interest. We moved $47,715 from the disadvantaged student supplemental funding to our small county supplemental funding, and that is to give us a little more flexibility in how we can use those funds. The teacher legislative bonus, which was another guaranteed allotment, that was $30,322. Test results bonus, which is another guaranteed allotment, we have $1,077. And then the state fiscal recovery bonus, that's a guaranteed allotment for $306,055. And then you'll notice we still had some purpose code corrections to align expenses with the DPI chart of accounts as well.
Any questions or comments on those adjustments? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the budget resolution amendments, or budget amendments as presented by Ms. Hollingsworth. Mr. Caldwell, Mr. Jones, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then lastly, the continuing budget.
Okay, we have to do this each year because typically when we get ready to move into the new year, we don't have our allotments from the state. And then, of course, you all know that the legislation is in a short session, so we will possibly have changes that are made in the next few months. So it'll be a few months down the road before we actually do our budget resolution for the upcoming school year. So at this time, we'd like to recommend that we pass the resolution to have interim appropriations made available for the purpose of paying salaries and the usual and customary expenses of Clay County Schools for the period beginning July 1, 2022 until adoption of the 22-23 budget resolution. Interim appropriations so made or expended shall be charged to the proper appropriations in the budget resolution.
So you've heard Ms. Hollingsworth's interim budget resolution. Again, this is something that we do each year pending the final state budget. So I'll entertain a motion that we approve this interim resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ms. Crockett, Mr. Jones, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hollingsworth. And then next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. In that consent agenda, we have the minutes from the May 23rd regular session. And then we have policies for action, which are updates to existing policies that were in your Google Drive folder. And then we have a list of policies that are first read for this month.
And just as a reminder, none of these policies for action tonight are new policies. They're just regular updates, changes to legal references, that sort of thing, to existing policies that we purchased through the North Carolina School Boards Association.
And I think too, I like the combination or culling some of those policies down to one great
Yes.
board policy and stuff. I thought that kind of cleaned everything up. But
Yeah. But there's nothing new or definitely nothing earth-shattering in that. It's just reorganization.
Yeah.
So is there a motion that we approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Caldwell, a second.
I'll second it.
Ms. Crawford, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, remarks from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we go into closed session for personnel.
Make a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Jones,
I'll second it.
second. Ms. Crawford, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I will say, members of the board and Mr. Rose, I sent a text message out to all the Western Region superintendents about that question because I've seen it done about 10 different ways. And I'll tell you that Dr. Conley over in Cherokee County, her response to my question was, how fast are they and how close to the Cherokee County line do they live? So it seems those policies are flexible.